Perhaps we've been going about this the wrong way. I just had this idea. It's maybe been percolating from bits and pieces, but I just had the solid thought just a moment ago before recording this. So in some ways, this video is me mulling it out. And once again, like some of my ideas, like on the large scale, it's not feasible. I do not have enough reach or voice or clout for people to actually listen to it and take it seriously enough on such a large scale. But in terms of the infectious beast of politics that is devouring culture and pop culture and literature and art and all that kind of stuff, that a lot of various channels on YouTube devoted to various kinds of entertainment and political subjects kind of have unfortunately come to focus on over the years. There's something that the channel Call Me Chato had said in a post about how, the rainbow Nazis, as he calls them, don't really give a fuck about anyone else. It's not even that they don't give a fuck about right-wing people. It's true, that part of the progressive left coalition has kind of written off all right-wing talking points years ago, and it's gotten to a point where pretty much anything outside of their immediate bubble is now to the right of them and therefore is now right-wing. And there's this thing that's been going on since around the time Trump got elected, where there's been the drift of the classic liberals over into the right-wing camp. I would say rather against their own choice. It just has kind of happened. And this has led to a kind of a factor of to what degree has there always been a case of people who are either signed up as being unaffiliated in political circles or as being outright Republicans? How much of that is actually because of a genuine adherence to the core Republican set of values, and how much of that is kind of more of any port in a storm kind of thing? I've over the time I've had this channel, and on my previous channel, I've occasionally, every once in a while, I've had someone comment along the lines of, well, I'm a conservative Republican, but I agree with what you said. To which I would say, well, have you considered that you might not actually really be a Republican? You've just taken that side because you can't deal with the sort of weird shit that the left is doing. Not necessarily saying that one way or another, but the thing is if you want to actually regain control of the conversation, well, you need to cut these people out of the conversation, and you do that by no longer talking with them. Like I said, this is what's kind of radical about the idea, but what if pretty much the 80% that is to the right of the ultra-progressives just stopped addressing the stuff they say and instead subdivide into a new left and right paradigm. Put the classic liberals back at the center of the left, and if people are demanding certain kinds of just hyper unrealistic things of other people, and all these sorts of long lists of demands of how everyone is supposed to change to conform, maybe you just take that as a sign that they're not a serious actor and probably shouldn't be given power if they're wanting these sorts of totalitarian controls, especially over real basic fundamental aspects of life. It's one thing to pass a law to say don't do this thing because it might be harmful to someone. It's quite another thing to say people need to fundamentally change their paradigm point of view on basics about biology or how they use language and words, or entirely ripping up how people view history and all that kind of stuff. Even if there are valid reasons for these things, that's an incredible ask of people, and is almost always going to be read as hostile and put people into a defensive position. And so is not tactically sound if you're actually trying to have any sort of change. It's just something I was talking to with my dad on the phone about earlier today. The thing that's broken about this country, talking about the United States, but it's somewhat infected other countries too, thanks to the internet, I say. But the thing that's fundamentally broken is that the two sides are kind of fed up with each other. I do feel like the right wing is much more open to conversation, and that's why I feel like this split can be done on the right more so than on the left. You're not going to be able to get a new right wing out of the left, but you can get a new left wing out of the right. because I don't think everyone on the right wing is actually genuinely right wing, or at least not ultra right wing in the same way that the left's leadership has become. That this is another kind of problem about the fact that people who are not actively involved in the party apparatus being encouraged to sign up as a member of that party in order to be able to vote in primaries, causing them to perhaps give too much loyalty to a thing that they're not actually even directly involved with. If all you're doing is voting, then you really shouldn't be signing up, as being affiliated with one of these parties. You're not actually a part of the party, you're a voter. By signing up with the party, you're guaranteeing your vote to them. So in a way, they don't need to listen to you as much, none of which is these aren't new observations of mine that you probably haven't heard if you've been paying attention to politics for the last 10 years or so. The thing is if we can subdivide the left, the left away from, the actual bulk of the center and the right wing, and then just make the conversation between the right wing and the new left wing that's built out of the center, or at least what is currently viewed as center, then that's, where the intellectual conversation ends up falling upon. If we you don't give them energy. Just stop giving this shit energy. I've been saying this for years. A lot of this stuff that's being done in art and entertainment media, even politics to a degree, are all active attempts to troll people into reacting, which is, of course, one of the great projected ironies of the people who fret so much over online trolls are themselves actively engaged in trying to troll people into overreacting so that they can go, ha, look at you did the thing that we said you were going to do. Because you fucking nitpicked them and pressured them and taunted them into doing it and practically asked them of it. And then you're also shocked when they do the thing. That's all you allow them to be, is a bully. And then what? They end up acting as a bully? I don't know. Like I said, it's just something that just occurred to me at random. And, I don't know. There's no way to get everyone on board with the idea. But, if their power goes away if you stop clapping for them. It's kind of like Peter Pan, when Tinkerbell was dying and you got to get the audience to clap for Tinkerbell to get the light to come back on. Because of the fact that everyone reacts so much to all this quote unquote woke nonsense, it actually gives the woke stuff power. Remember that the power a person has is a combination of the power they actually have and the power that other people think they have. You can diminish a lot of people's influence just by stopping to invest them with authority. It's like the paradox of Twitter. It's only there's Twitter doesn't actually have any valid reason for its influence. What can Twitter do to you? Is Twitter going to come to your house and beat you up? Is Twitter going to take your nice car away if you're some corporate guy? For some reason, though, people in power have just invested a bunch of trust in what they're seeing on Twitter, and then they've become invested in Twitter. They have made Twitter powerful because they are paranoid about the influence and spread of what people can say on Twitter. It's nuts. But if people just stopped caring about what people say and do on there, and for that matter, stop using it, stop talking about it, well, then its power and influence goes away. So if we, were to just somehow, like I said, subdivide into a new left-right coalition of sorts, and just basically ignore them until they go away, because they'll eventually give up. If no one's paying attention to them, they'll spend their energy and take a nap. It's like when kids throw tantrums, you don't need to terrorize them or abuse them, but also you don't give them a fucking lollipop. And really the best thing to do is just pretend that you don't hear it and just keep trying to have an adult conversation until they give the fuck up. It's the most humane way to go about it that doesn't turn you into a villain. And that's a thing that both sides have to be very careful about, as we've become so unable to reconcile with one another, is that we don't end up doing all the things that we decry as being the horrors that validate why our morality is the way it is, and all that kind of stuff. Don't stare into the abyss too long, to all you Nietzscheans out there. Oh yeah, that was what I was going to say, though. As I was saying with my dad, though, it's we need both of these sides to be functional. It's why we need to have a active conversation. It can't just be the right wing responding to the craziest shit that the left is saying. There needs to be a give and take. There needs to be an actual conversation and back and forth, because you cannot only have progress and you cannot only have tradition. Without tradition, progress is meaningless. But you can't stay in one place forever either, because the universe won't let you, because the universe itself is in motion. So there is no such thing as staying in one place. But if you don't remember who you are and where you've been, you have no way to be able to orient the direction you're going. What are you progressing from if you have no past? Kind of a thing. And so the both sides fundamentally, philosophically, are necessary. And so we got to figure out some way to be able to get them healthy again so they can talk to each other. And the most obstinate ones, who are like the most resistant to like having any sort of negotiated settlement and end to this, are the people on the far left who've just completely rejected any idea that there's going to be any pushback to their demands. It's their way or the highway. And as long as that's your attitude, there is no peace possible. Negotiation, diplomacy, all this stuff. It's the joke that they actually did in an episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, of that, you don't have peace until both sides are unhappy. Both sides have to be willing to lose. And, like I said, just from my years of, the last several years of paying attention to right-wing shit and trying to talk with right-wing people, whereas our disagreements, they'll happily argue with you all day. It's really not until you just start, blanket accusing them of being scumbag racists that you kind of cross a line. If you remain polite with people and not act like they're subhuman, which is supposed to be the whole left's bag, isn't it? The thing that fundamentally bothers me, it's once again, on paper, I agree with all sorts of principles that the left supposedly holds, but they're not at all following those principles. They're punishing the right wing because of how they believe the right wing has functioned, and so it's like now the shoe's on the other foot. See how you like it, which is not what was supposed to happen. That is not what we're supposed to be doing. You're not a better person if you resort to that kind of shit, all that kind of stuff. Punishing Christianity because of how Christianity behaved by acting like Christians does not make you better than them. And that kind of modeling of reasoning can be framed around anything. Once again, do not stare so long into the abyss that you become the monster. We need our entire civilization intact and functional. We need both sides of the engine running. You can't do a V piston kind of engine with only one side pumping. They both got to be firing. They both got to be able to work